we're in a time where instrumentalists, whether soloists, chamber musicians, or orchestral players, are in abundance. A lot of them thriving. Conductors too, and we know there are way too many of those. But too many of them are good, that's the problem. What a road we have all traveled from that magical moment when interest is first sparked, then through the blossoming of passion, and then on to that heady reality of performing when hopefully the balance between head and heart is perfect. And along the way, yes, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Sorry, Colin, you've already said that today. Talent will somehow always manifest itself and demand to be heard. So I've never been worried about the supply of professional musicians, but dare I say, in the not too distant future, we may well have too many. Blasphemy, you say. Well, I've thought about this a long time, and stay with me if you can. I recently read an article in which the composer Paul Hindemith said, "We will indeed reach a time where we will be growing more and more professional musicians and not growing the audience that will listen to them." Now, one part of the deal is that performers need to perform, and to do that and be able to earn a living, they need audiences, obviously. The other part is that you need audience members who want to be there. Don't get me wrong, talking about growing our audience is most definitely not a self-seeking or selfish exercise. What I'm talking about is the continued curiosity and need of those compelled to do so, to tap into a special place, the seeds of which were planted in youth. I think that's a gorgeous idea. That's what an audience member is. But the seeds have been planted. That is what Paul Hindemith was talking about. And that is what he was worried about. The classical music establishment has always been self-flagellating over the problem of aging audiences. Several years ago, Daniel Barenboim had a study done while he was music director of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra that looked back at the demographic of classical music audiences in the 1920s and the 1930s. The results were, to everyone's surprise, similar to what is going on today. So, do we sit back and be reassured by those results? Will the audience always be there, albeit 40 plus, 50 plus, settled into life, moneyed? Well, I'm not so sure. Do you remember that magical spark I mentioned before? How and when does that happen? Is it happening today in our schools, all of them? Surely the opportunity to experience that revelation needs to be there for everyone. I'm in no doubt that school is the ideal environment for this. Youngsters need the exposure to the wonder that is music from the start. Why? Well, learning about music is like learning a new language. In today's world, it's indispensable. We are notoriously slack in English-speaking countries in learning languages, and yet everyone knows, and all the studies show, that a combination of music and foreign language is exactly what develops the young brain's potential. It's like there's a reverse snobbery. You know, there's you speak English and you can rule the world. Well, watch out. Music obviously adds that creative component to thinking. And though the reading, writing, and arithmetic are important, music develops listening skills, collaboration, the capacity to reconcile conflicting ideas, and it nurtures emotional intelligence to a much greater degree. The last of these, emotional intelligence. I love that term. It combines somehow everything about humanity. It's perhaps the key trait in successful people. These components that make up the making of music make it a real metaphor for life. But what does this all have to do with audiences of the future? Well, those young people who have parents who can afford music lessons or have the ambition for their children to do so are very lucky indeed. Whether they grow up to be another Arthur Rubinstein or Marta Argerich or not is totally beside the point. It's that they have been exposed to music, and that's what counts. The creative and emotional resonances engendered by music prepare the young for life and all its ups and downs, because they will have an emotional point of reference, an inner private bank of memories. If they don't go on to study music seriously, it doesn't matter. They will most likely, no, definitely come back to it at some point. That is our future audience. And how about this for a British history lesson? John Dowland, Thomas Campion, William Byrd, Henry Purcell, honorary members Handel and Mendelssohn, Edward Elgar, Gilbert and Sullivan, Benjamin Britten, Michael Tippett, Noel Coward, Flanders and Swan, Dudley Moore, Dusty Springfield, Shirley Bassey, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, The Who, Led Zeppelin, Eric Clapton, David Bowie, Harry Birtwistle, Mark Anthony Turnage, George Benjamin. What a lineup. Just being exposed to this incredible pantheon and the music they produced is not only essential but tremendous fun. Ears are opened, hearts are opened. How does a young person deal with all the thoughts that are bombarding him or her growing up? Having emotional points of reference, which music can create, is for me a beautiful secret. The truly great composers have been where we have been, but through their gift they've endeavored and succeeded in explaining, mostly without words, the unexplainable, the bombarding thoughts. I want, and I think we all certainly want to do more, but if there was a piano up here, I'd play you a tune, but that's all I got tonight. Thank you very much for listening.